As a priest, one of the great privileges of being a priest is that you get to be with lots of people and at lots of different times of their lives. From the most joyful moments of like marriage or baptism of babies or things like this, to really, really painful moments of illness, of struggle, of loss, and death, and everything in between, graduations, ordinary events in their life, and just the day-to-day. All of it is such a privilege. One of the greatest privileges of being a priest is being with someone as they go to meet God. Sometimes it happens kind of suddenly. You're in the midst of your own day, and then you get called to go to the hospital or some type of nursing home or something like this. Other times we can see it coming. All the time, though, it's always such an honor to be able to be there at the end, even though it's hard. And in many ways, the life of the priest imitates the life of Jesus in this way. Jesus, when he came into the world, when they were announcing his coming, said, "He is Emmanuel." He's Emmanuel. What does that mean? God with us. God with us. Well, we could ask this really important question. When is God with us? When Jesus is Emmanuel, what does it mean? And how often, what circumstances of our lives is God with us? He's with us in everything. But sometimes we don't feel that. Sometimes actually he feels quite distant. Sometimes it feels like, if we're honest, he didn't show up. Have you ever felt that way? You ever felt that way where you're like, Lord, if you had been here, this would not have happened. Lord, if you had been here, this would not have happened. And it's so painful for us. It can leave us in the deepest pain and darkness, and sometimes can fill us with doubt. We don't know what to do with that question. One of the things that I'm in a spiritual director training program to help me journey with people in their relationship with God. And one of the lessons that one of my priests has tried to teach us again and again, which I've found to be so helpful in prayer, is to turn your questions into statements. Sometimes in our life of faith, sometimes in our life of prayer, you and I have very pressing questions, and they're good. They're really good. But sometimes what can happen is we can get stuck in our question. Like, where were you? Where were you? Or why is there evil in the world? Or why did my friend get sick? Or why did my friend die? And what this priest has tried to teach us and me is to see if you can turn those questions into statements and then to tell God those statements. So instead of like, where are you, Lord? Or where were you? You could say something like this. Lord, you seemed to not show up. Lord, when I needed you the most, it seemed you weren't there. Lord, it doesn't seem like you care for me. It doesn't seem like you love me. Lord, I'm afraid that what happened could happen again, or whatever is on your heart. And what that does for us is sometimes our questions can keep God at a distance. Our questions can be a little bit protective. And it doesn't really give God a place to land, so to speak. Because as soon as he gives us an answer, if you're anything like me, you're going to ask another question. And when do the questions ever end? And does the answer ever really satisfy us anyway? What satisfies us more is presence, relationship, God with us. Lord, I'm sad. My friend died. Be with me. So today, wherever you find yourself, even sometimes in the midst of the most pressing questions we can ask, what if you took some time to see how you could change those into statements that you could then share with God? You see, Jesus wanted to be with us in everything. He's born, and then he goes into exile and is like a refugee. He knows what the experience of being a refugee is, of people, even as a young child, trying to kill him. So he knows the experience of even moving and living in different places. He knows the experience of doing manual labor day after day, living in obscurity. He knows the experience, tradition would say, that Joseph died before Jesus started his public ministry. This is one of the reasons why Joseph is considered the patron of a happy death. He has Jesus and Mary with him as he dies. But Jesus didn't raise Joseph from the dead at that moment. He let Joseph die. And then he starts his ministry, and he enters into every pain you and I can experience. He wants to touch every part of our humanity. He wants your humanity and mine, every single part of it, to experience his love. And so he touches the eyes of a blind. He heals the eyes of the blind. He hears hearing. He sets people's tongues free, and so on. And then today, we get to see Jesus entering into the pain of death. All of us have experienced that pain in some way. And Jesus didn't protect himself from that for us, so that he could even meet us there and give us hope. The Greek, it's the shortest verse in the whole Bible, Jesus wept. The Greek is so beautiful. The Greek says, and he burst into tears. And he burst into tears. It's like, have you ever burst into tears? You're like, you can't hold them back, and then it's like, they just come. He looks at the situation, his friend who has died, and something in his heart stirs, and he says, this was not my Father's original plan. God did not make death, the Bible said, and he does not rejoice in the death of the living. This was not my Father's original plan. But also, my Father will not let this be the final word. I will be the final word. I am the resurrection and the life. If you believe in me, you will live. Do you believe it? He says. And that's a question he invites to all of us. I am the resurrection and the life. If you believe in me, Jesus says, you will live even if you die. Do you believe it? And this phrase from that first reading is just like resounding in my heart. I will open your graves and have you rise from them. I was just like, last night, I was like laying on my bed, and that was just like, I will open your graves and have you rise from them. You and I, when we look into our hearts, we don't want to just live for 70 years or 80 or 90. Or as my physical therapist, he's shooting for 100. He really wants to go for 100. I don't want to go for 100. I want to go for 100 million. I want to go forever. And I don't want to decline. I want to be alive. And I can't give that to myself. But I know the one who can. I can't give that to myself, but I know the one who has life within him. And he has come to share that with you and me. Do you believe it? So today, wherever you are, sometimes circumstances, things happen in our lives that are so hard and force us to our knees and make us ask the most pressing questions. But what if, like Mary and Martha, we turn those questions into just raw statements of trust? Lord, I'm sad that you didn't save this person or heal this or change this in me, but I know who you are. And I believe in you.